Welcome back to another edition of the Washington Nationals here on OOTP 27. As you can see, we are here at the start of the offseason after winning our second straight World Series, back-to-back champions in 2033 and 2034, as our team is immortalized, I guess, memorialized here on this page that we can just go back to and see anybody who pitched for us this season. All these guys got rings. Lots of good names, obviously. So, basically, the plan for this offseason, I'm not sure there's going to be much done. It might just be another offseason where we kind of just stay put and see where things go and see if we can maybe, remove some guys off the edge of the roster, maybe add some guys to the edge of the roster. Or we might start the process of trying to get rid of some money, open up some more money, and just have a little bit more money heading in this offseason, and maybe even not even do anything with that. But I don't think there's going to be anything huge happening this offseason. So, just taking a look right at our messages here, we have a couple options that we have to deal with. Shane Rodemaker is 1 billion% going to be voided. We're just going to be buying him out for $1.4 million rather than giving him another year at $13.5. Unfortunately, that just did not work out for him. So, he had some good years for us. 2030, 2031, and then 2032 was pretty solid too. But, he was fun, but ended up not being a super long-term guy for us. So he's going to get voided. Also, Jose Rodriguez. We'll probably bring him back. I'm going to hold off on this one because we might want to open up some money because I feel like Jose Rodriguez is a guy we can replace. He's 33. We've got a bunch of good relievers. We don't need, I feel like, Jose Rodriguez in our rotation anymore, especially now that we've got guys like not our rotation, but our bullpen, guys like Sime and some more strikeout guys than we used to have previously. So I might void this. We'll come back to this at some point. And then Skubal, obviously, we're going to pick him up for $35.5 million this season because he is really good for us, and he is one of our best pitchers, obviously, and he's just an absolute monster. And, I should mention, he has just this 1 year left on his contract as an option for 2035, which is this upcoming season, and one of the big reasons why I'm not sure that we're going to do much this offseason is because next offseason, we have a lot of money opening up on the books. James Wood, so Skubal, once we do this, is 35.5 coming off the books next season, 28 million coming off the book for Wood, 25 for Harry Ford. Just a lot of guys that are all primed to be heading into free agency after 2035. Like Dylan O'Ray, his final year, if we bring him back this season, will be this year. Jose Rodriguez, we could claim him and then just have him timed up at that too, or we could go this offseason. Wellington Herrera, if we decide to bring him back, he would be lined up for that. We probably won't, though, because I'm not going to bring him back at $7.8 million. Ronnie Cruz is about that time, and also he's at 6.5 to be like a backup utility guy. Might look to possibly move him this offseason, maybe next offseason. We'll see. But Brady Ebel, somebody we haven't extended. So that money might open up more once we have all these guys come off the books. Alex Rouse, not really somebody I'm looking to extend, nor with Miguel Sime, but you get the point. We've got a lot of guys who are key pieces on this team who are coming off the books after this 2035 season. So in my mind, it just makes sense to be like, hey, kind of stay put, see where the team is, maybe do a list of slight additions through this offseason, and then in 2035, that's where some big changes will happen. Heading into 2036. Oh, also Mike Sirota. Mike Sirota is another name that I should mention that comes off the books after 2035. A lot of players come off the books, and then really the only guys we have extended through that period are guys like Angel Feliz, who's going to be our shortstop, Bobby Matamoros, who is obviously our insane closer, Luis Hernandez, who is turned into a key piece for us. And then Jerry Harris is the other big one because he is only projected to get 1 more year of arbitration after 2035, so 2036 would be his final year. So in my mind, it makes sense to be like, okay, 2035, maybe we re-sign like one of these guys, whether it's Wood or Ford I'm kind of leaning towards letting Ford walk now that we have some of these catchers coming up through the system. But, I'm not going to make any decisions right now. This is obviously going to be like a next offseason thing to tackle. But if we extend anybody like James Wood is probably towards the top of the list. But also at the same time, he's coming off an injured season and a season where he wasn't quite his full self. He's 32. He'll be even older, obviously, once this contract ends. So maybe we don't want to sign a guy who's going to be a bad outfielder, probably a DH first baseman type for the rest of his career. Not really the type of player I would usually like to re-sign. So it makes sense to me to be like, all right, Wood, Ford, Skubal, Sirota, they're all gone. Dylan O'Ray, Wellington Herrera, they're all gone after 2035, if not this offseason for a couple of them like O'Ray and Herrera, and Rodriguez as well. Maybe we should sync up Jerry Harris to be on that timeline. So we do this season of Jerry Harris at $20 million, around $20 million for arbitration, but then we trade him, get a haul for him as much as possible. Obviously, you're not going to get equal value because he's Jerry Harris and he's this two-way freak. But as much as we can for him, line everybody up for that 2035 timeline and then head into 2036 as just like a totally revamped sort of Washington Nationals team. I think that's what I'm leaning towards doing, but we will see when we get to that point. But that's, I wanted to put it out there in the world because that's what I'm leaning towards doing. Alrighty, folks, so we have gone ahead and added our 12 players to the development lab. The first one being Luke Corsia, who we are trying to tap into his power here. He's already got a really, really good contact profile, elite gap power. The eye is up to 45, and he's already getting on base a ton with his just putting the ball in play often enough, and he's, I guess, walking enough. I mean, he did walk a ton, 12.6%, so I mean, that might even just go up on its own, considering he had such a big success for this season. But if we want to get his power up and some of these percentiles up, we have to manually do that with the dev lab here. So we're going to try to see if we can tap into some power, make him even more of a really, really solid hitter for us. He's going to be entering his age 22 season here in 2035, so still very young, high adaptability. That should work in his favor. Moving things on to Wilkin Tamariz, who is 24, almost 25. He's a high work ethic guy. We're trying to tap into his plate discipline. He's already got really good pop, really good bat-to-ball skills. The gap power doesn't have any sort of potential there, but the eye does. So if we could get him to, get on base a bit more, that could definitely work in his favor. And that's what we're going to be trying to do with him, because he's a guy who we're kind of looking at. He might be like our starting right fielder when James Wood leaves the team after this season. So we want to see if we can really optimize him to be ready to go for next season, and then also probably play a decent amount this season as well, obviously. And then Josh DiCastillo, trying to improve his two-strike approach, because I could go for the eye. I decided to go for the avoid K just because he walked a decent amount, like in a small sample size, and he just walks a decent amount, and I would like to cut down on the Ks, especially for a player of his profile. Also, he's 6'8". I just now realized that he's 6'8". And this is also a guy who's probably going to be our center fielder when Mike Sirota leaves after the season. So another guy who we're trying to optimize for next season, as in 2036. So we're trying to, that's a lot of the dev lab is trying to get a lot of the future guys ready to go for the next few seasons, is what the dev lab is for this go around right now. But Castillo, trying to improve his avoid K, because I like having the guys who don't strike out a ton. We've already got a bunch of guys who strike out, even once Wood and some of those guys leave. We have a lot of guys who have some big swing and miss, so we want to keep guys like Castillo, who could potentially be a guy who has a lot of good bat and ball skills, and Luis Hernandez, and players like that in our lineup here, and then hope that, I don't know, the eye just fills in on its own. Moving things on to the next player is Wei Lee, who is a very similar bat to Luke Corsia, except he is a second baseman, but he is also a guy who we're going to probably try to throw into the dev lab defensively in spring training, because he's not really the best second baseman right now. but we want to try to get him ready for the big leagues at some point. He is currently 19, like halfway to 20 years old. Did really solid in A-ball in Fredericksburg this past season. I believe we'll probably put him in. I mean, he might be in Double A. For now, we'll leave him like this. Or for now, we might just go like to Wilmington. But he might end up starting the season in Double A and seeing what happens there. But for now, we're going to see what happens. We're going to try to tap into some of his bat power, or his power here, to go along with the potentials for here, and hope that he can turn into another version of Luke Corsia, but in the infield. And then we have Jay Nelson, who is potentially going to be on our big league staff this season, former 14th round pick of ours. Had a really, really good season the past 2 years in A-ball and high A. Now he's 22. He'll probably either start in the big leagues or in Double A, depending on how he develops more over the offseason and in spring training, and just how many spots we have open. But he'll probably be on the 40-man. He'll definitely be on the 40-man roster, and we are trying to tap into his control, because as you can see, the stuff, the movement, the 2 pitches, they're all looking good, especially with the potentials, but the control, I want to get that up a little bit more to make him even more of a well-rounded reliever for us. And then Ramon Huron, I just realized his nickname is left-hander, which is actually crazy, because usually it'd be something like that, and he's a right-hander, but no, he is a left-hander. And we are having a severe lack of left-handers on our staff and in our system right now. So Huron, we want him to develop. He's starting to get to that point where he might just kind of be what he is. He's kind of like Josh Yorkin at this point, where he's just kind of a fake 65 or 60. But I'm hoping that he has a little bit left in him. He did some developing this season. His overall went up a bit. His overall did go down, though. But then so it went down, and then it went back up. So I don't know. I'm hoping he can develop a little bit and be ready for the big leagues, maybe, because I would like to have a lefty in our team. That would be good. So we're trying to tap into some of that control for him. Gabby Berry is somebody I'm looking to possibly be our backup infielder this year, and we move on from Ronnie Cruz. You can see here he has absolutely torn up the minor leagues since 2031 in A-ball and high A, Double A, and this past season in Triple A. He is almost 26. It is well beyond the time to get him up on the big league team. And with Ronnie Cruz's regression, I feel like Gabby Berry is primed to take over that spot for us. So Gabby Berry, we are trying to improve his quality of contact because he has some potential there on the BABIP, and if we could get that to go up along with maybe the gap power just naturally and then his 55 power already, he could be an interesting player for us in the infield who also plays a very solid infield, and we could probably teach him how to play the outfield as well in the corners. And then moving on, we have Zhu Zhao, who is another one of our prospects here. He's the number 79th prospect. He was an international free agent signing in 2030. Big-time hold runners, sack bunt, really good fielder. Small guy for a pitcher, but has a decent enough profile with the high work ethic and baseball IQ. Had a really solid season for us in 20 starts in Fredericksburg this past year. He's probably, I think I have him, I have him in Harrisburg right now. He's going to start 2035 in Harrisburg and see how things go, and we are currently trying to tap into his control to maybe make him even more effective with the control, maybe get us up to 60 potential-wise, and he's possibly a guy down the line who could be in our rotation. And then we have a bunch of other minor league guys, all minor league pitchers. Ricardo Marin, however you would say his name, he was a scouting discovery in 2028. He's now 22 years old, coming off a not great season in high A, but I think he was hurt. Yeah, he tore his flexor tendon towards the end of 2033, missed most of 2034, but you can see in 2033 he did pitch well, same with 2032 in rookie ball, and he's a 55 potential with high adaptability and work ethic, and he's a guy who could be interesting. He's an extreme fly baller, and we're trying to tap into some of his movement potential here, because right now it's only a 45 potential there. If we can get that potential up, maybe get the actual rating itself up too, that would be interesting. He's in high A for us right now as a potential future pitcher. Joe Ferris, who we picked up at the deadline, or in the offseason last year, is a lefty, and like I said, we have a very limited selection of lefties in the organization, and Joe Ferris is one of them. So we're trying to tap into I don't want to tap into his control. No, I do want to tap into his control because he's 24, almost 25, and I'm like, is he a fake guy? Maybe we can get a big bump on his control here and tap into some of this potential, because we would like to see that tapped into, because he hasn't really shown the ability to have that elite walk rate at the moment. So hopefully we can tap into that and make him a bit more of a more interesting option for the major leagues for us this year as a lefty pitcher. And then there's Travis Williams. He's been a guy who's been around for a long time, for, I guess not long time, 2033. I guess this is a different guy. I think we used to have a guy with a similar name, but Travis Williams was a 4th-round pick for us in 2033. High control, high movement guy, developing nicely, high adaptability, work ethic, had a really solid season this year in high A with Wilmington. In 45 and 2/3 innings, you could see really solid percentile rankings, and we are trying to tap into his control. And obviously the potential is there. We're trying to see if we can get the control current rating up into the green and potentially be an option for us in the big league bullpen at some point within the next couple seasons for us. And then there's Oscar Medellin, who is from Venezuela. He is a big-time movement guy, ground ball pitcher, coming off a really, really good season in A-ball with a 5.9 wins above replacement, and then he was in rookie ball the previous years. He's 21, almost 22. He was another scouting discovery guy. We are trying to tap into his control because, as you can see, the movement's there, the control, not so much. So if we can get him to be a guy who finds the zone and works those ground balls, that would be fantastic for him. He is also starting the year in Double-A with the Harrisburg Senators. Alrighty, folks, we have reached the point in the offseason where the awards have been given out. We're going to quickly go through this, mainly because England-Argentina is about to start, and I don't want to miss that. But the National League MVP this season was not Jerry Harris, got beat out by Lance Smithkill just barely. I mean, an 8-WAR season for the San Diego Padres with a 181 WRC plus. I mean, insane. Insane player. And I don't even think they made the playoffs, even with this guy on their team. They did not. They were a sub-500 team with the MVP who put up an 8 wins above replacement. How do you do that? I don't know, but the Padres managed to do it, and then he beats out Jerry Harris, who is the runner-up. If he had a better season offensively, or pitching-wise, rather, he was really good offensively, obviously. If he had a better season pitching-wise, like if he had like a 3-win, 2.5-win season, I feel like they might have given it to him, probably would have given it to him, but, I mean, 8 wins is pretty hard to overlook for Smithkill, so he barely wins that award, and then Ellie De La Cruz is your 3rd-place finisher. And then we also had votes for Angel Feliz, and that was it on our team. Well, over on the American League side of things, it was Kevin McGonigal winning the MVP, with Quinn Holm behind him, the monster power man with 59 bombs for the Texas Rangers this season. And then 3rd place was Kobe Mayo of the Baltimore Orioles. And then in the National League Cy Young ends up being Jerry Pope of the St. Louis Cardinals. If I remember correctly, they've put together a pretty decent rotation the past few seasons. This guy looks like he got hurt right at the end of the season, unfortunately, but does win the Cy Young after back-to-back, if you round up 5, 4.5, 4.5, and then 4.8 win seasons. Really, really good years. I mean, he put up a 4.5 WAR last year, even with a 4 ERA this year. 2.46 ERA leads the league, and then ends up winning Cy Young because of it. And then also Tarek Skubal got votes, but did not finish top 3. 2 Dodgers pitchers were in the top 3. On the American League side of things, it was Franklin Gonzalez of the Baltimore Orioles, barely beating out a really tight race, really all 3 of these guys. Franklin Gonzalez of Baltimore ends up winning it, 27 years old, out of Puerto Rico. 6-win season for him. Cody Thomas of the Twins, he is the two-way guy who also plays first base for them. And then he plays first base, too. It's not like he's a DH like Harris. He actually plays first base when he's not pitching, which is a very odd thing they have going, but, you know, it works for them. I shouldn't say it works for them because, or I guess they did make the playoffs. But for a while they weren't making the playoffs, but I believe they did make the playoffs this year because didn't we play them? Did I, already forget what the playoff tree was? Or we played them... Yeah, we played them in the playoffs. Yeah, we played them in the playoffs. We beat them in the World Series. Jesus Christ. Already forgetting. In my defense, that was like a week and a half ago that I recorded this. And I've been playing so much Call of Duty that my brain is absolute soup at all times. So that's just, in my defense here. And then third place was Danny Wilson of the Los Angeles Angels, a right-handed pitcher out of FIU, who put together an 8-win season. So an 8-win season ends up as the third place. I feel like he could have... You got to give it to the guy who had 8 wins. 49 FIP, a 206 FIP, a .02 home run per 9, and 191 in the third innings. So he pitched more innings and had better stats than these guys. Like, give the award to Danny Wilson. I'd be in riots if I was the Angels. And then over on the manager side of things, our guy Bart, whatever his name is, has won the Manager of the Year for a back-to-back season, both obviously World Series winning seasons for him. We have just been a juggernaut, really, ever since we signed him to be our manager. The National League Rookie of the Year ended up being Dwayne Heap of the Pittsburgh Pirates, pretty much running away with the award, a 4.8-win season with a 150 WRC+, 20 doubles, 20 home runs, as their catcher. So yeah, really good catcher too. Yeah, really solid framing catcher. So, I mean, this guy's one of the premier catchers in Major League Baseball at the moment, a Canadian, Dwayne Heap. And then the runner-up was also a Pittsburgh Pirate in Tyler Waltz. So maybe the Pirates are actually going to start making some moves here in the National League. We will have to see. Well, over on the American League side of... also, Luke Corsia does not get the award, but he is getting votes for that. Because he wasn't as good as we would have hoped this year, but definitely towards the end of the season really started putting together, and we are looking for big things from Luke Corsia in 2035. And then over on the American League side of things, it was Hideyuki Hadiori, a Detroit Tigers outfielder. Center fielder, even though he's a 40-grade center fielder. I mean, he put together a -10 ZR in center and only a 2-win season. So definitely a down year in the American League rookies-wise. Probably he just played more than like the rest of the dudes. Yeah, and this guy wasn't really anything impressive either. I mean, this guy had a sub-1 wins above replacement. So yeah, I mean, not a lot going on rookie-wise. Brady Bamilia, though. I mean, I feel like you got to give it to him. I mean, he had a better season than the other guy. I mean, you give it to Brody here. This is anti-East Coast, anti-cold weather state biased here. I see he's not throwing hard anymore, but effective nonetheless, making it to the big leagues finally in 2034 for a full season. And then over on the Silver Slugger side of things, Jerry Harris ends up as the DH Silver Slugger for us. When it comes to the Reliever of the Year, we do not get the Reliever of the Year. Sime and Hollick both got votes, but they weren't towards the top. The Reliever of the Year ends up being Jesus Travioso, another Pirate player. Like I said, they might start making some noise here in the National League in the next couple seasons. While the American League Reliever of the Year was Andres Barrenuevo, a right-handed reliever out of SNU, Southern New Hampshire University. In Manchester, puts together a 2.5-win season for the Chicago White Sox. Alrighty, so we have finished up our offseason here preparing for the 2035 campaign, and now it's time to go over everything that happened. First things first, our scouting director retired, so we needed to replace him. Got right on that, replaced him with this guy, Winton Bernard. Outstanding at scouting the major leagues and minor leagues, as well as the international scouting. Only excellent on amateurs, but he was just the best of the bunch of the neutral guys, and I was really liking how our previous scout, who was a neutral scout, was just evaluating players. And then also, there was another guy who was maybe like a little bit better than this Bernard guy, but he was in his 60s, and I just didn't want to hire a guy who was going to retire again in like 2-3 years. And this guy is 44, so he should be around for quite a bit for us. At least that is the hope with him. And then we did a few extensions this offseason. First one here, Mateo Reyes, 5-year extension for him, $16 million. A high-leverage reliever for us. Could potentially be a closer type for us if Matamoros eventually, isn't in that role or something. But for now, he is like a high-leverage sort of setup guy for us, coming off a really good season in 2034. and he's 26 years old. We've got him locked up through his age 30 year, with that age 30 year being a option year. I believe what it is for him is just we're like buying out maybe 3 years of team control or maybe 4 years of team control, and then I think this is a free agent year for his age 30 season, and it's all below 10 million. I mean, it's 3 million for all his team control years is the highest it gets, and then 7.5 for that free agent year. So still very team friendly on the deal there. Then the next big extension we did was Wilkin Tamariz, who the plan for him is to be the right fielder next season when James Wood leaves. We'll probably slap a QO on James Wood. He'll probably decline it, and then Wilkin Tamariz will be our everyday right fielder, or at least majority of the time right fielder. Right now, he is the backup corner outfielder. He expects to be starting, but he'll be starting next year for us, and we just preemptively went ahead and extended him. Very team-friendly deal through his age 31 season. It's under $7.5 million up into his age 29, and then once his 2 years of free agency here are bought out, it's $12 million and then $14 million. I believe that's 2 years of free agency, but still very team-friendly deal. 7 years, $48 million for Wilkin Tamariz. And then the other long-term extension we did was Eric Kleeman, coming off a 3-win season in our rotation. Big-time control, big-time movement. We all know I like these types of pitchers. So he's coming off a good season. We reward him with a 7-year extension, and the highest it gets for him is $5 million. So that was why we gave him this deal. I was like, if he can just come in here and be like a steady 4th, 5th option for us, maybe 3rd option on a good year, I mean, we get him for at most $5 million through all these seasons. That is a huge, huge bargain, so I felt like it was a thing we needed to do. And then we had a couple 1-year extensions as well. Alex Rouse just, buying out 1 year of arbitration on guys. We ended up bringing back Wellington Herrera for $7.7 million, so he is on the team once again. There just really isn't a lot of good lefty relievers out there, so I just feel like we needed to bring him back. We're going for this one last run here in 2035, trying to three-peat anyway, so we might as well bring back a guy who we know is going to be good for us. And that was also the same reason why we brought back Dylan O'Ray on a 1-year deal for $10 million, just because he's been such a key for us, having him take over the leadoff spot when Harry Ford is struggling and just be fantastic in the playoffs for us as that table setter who has the elite back-to-ball skills and the OBP skills as well. Definitely not really doing much for us defensively, but holding his own at least. Oh, and then we also did one more extension. Luke Corsia, I forgot that we assigned him because it was separated between these trades here. 9-year extension for Luke Corsia, $137.2 million for him, the 22-year-old Australian left fielder. Coming off a 2.5-win season for us in 2034. We're expecting big, big things for him here in 2035. He is the guy. He is the main guy in left field. It's not going to be like every third day with anybody. He is the guy in left field for us, and we've got him signed through his age 30 season. He does get a bit expensive here because this is a long-term deal to where we're actually buying out some free agent years for him here, but we've got him through his age 30 because he debuted so young in the big leagues, but it's still a team-friendly deal to the point where it's $23 million at the most, which is still very, very good for us, and we expect him to be an elite bat here in the big leagues, and also a really solid left fielder. Obviously a noodle arm, so he can't really play anything but left field, but still a very good player, and we're expecting big things from him here in 2035. And then moving on to the trades we did here. Parker Picatt no longer on this roster. We traded him to the Cincinnati Reds for a couple different guys. This guy we ended up not being able to keep, Liberta Ponte here, but we did keep this Jake Marsala guy. Unfortunately, he is starting the year on the IL for us, but basically the idea with him is that he's going to be our big-time swing-and-miss lefty guy. Doesn't have great control, doesn't have great movement, but he's got that 80-grade stuff. Now, obviously, it looks like he can fill in the movement, but he's 25. This is definitely fake potential. But even if this doesn't fill in, he can be like a Kevin Yoder lefty for us. So that was the idea with him. And then plus, he's 25 years old, has multiple options for us. And Parker Picatt, unfortunately, even though I think he's a good player and we could have used him, he does not have any options, and we already had a major roster crunch here with optionless players heading into opening day for the season. So, I mean, if you added Parker Picatt to that mix, things were going to be really, really rough, and we probably would have lost somebody just waiving them. So we got what we could for Parker Picatt. And then we also traded Isaac Leone because he was not going to be back for us. He's over on the Diamondbacks, and then we just got a couple minor league players. Jaron Advincula, who is on Georgia Tech in real life. He's in AAA for us, just, depth option for us in the infield. And then we also threw on this Alex Carrion guy simply because he can play defense throughout the minor leagues. Don't know if he's going to be anything, probably not, but he was a guy who's not Rule 5 eligible, and we threw him on the deal as just an extra piece. And then we also traded Mark Martin. Same thing with him as we did with Picatt. He had no options, completely out of option year, so we traded him to the Twins, who appears they're playing him in center field. Sure, he's been a quad A guy for us, hasn't ever gotten really a shot in the big leagues. He can hang in the big leagues with this bat, but just was not going to get any playing time for us at the big league level, unfortunately, so we traded him to Minnesota. Along with Robinson Ortiz, just because we were not going to bring him back, and then they also did not re-sign him. He's now on the St. Louis Cardinals this season. And then we got Josh Merlini, who they offered to us, because I was like, why not? Why not try to get this guy? He's 25, and once again, a lot of this is fake potential, but even with that, he's still really solid, and he's going to miss all of 2035. So we pick up a guy who's coming off a torn labrum. Who knows what he's going to be like when he comes back in 2036, but that is the idea. We kind of take a big swing on a guy who could be a big part of our bullpen in 2036, but is going to miss probably, if not all, 99% of 2035. So Josh Merlini on the IL right now for us, but definitely keeping an eye on him and how his rehab goes for us. And then we also added on just a couple of random guys in the minor leagues. This guy with big-time control, nothing else really going for him, 26 years old. Could be a very fake 70 control. I'm assuming that's what it is. That's why we threw him on. Just kind of like, taking a swing on a guy, a Hail Mary. And then we also had Seojin Williamson, who I just thought was intriguing. And then we actually weren't able to keep him either. He ended up walking through us, but the only reason we added him on the deal was he had 80 grade speed, base running, steal tendency, and stealing ability, which I just thought was interesting. But we were not able to keep him as he just did not want a minor league deal with us for whatever reason. And then we ended up doing one more trade, and that was Ronnie Cruz, who does have options. We could have had him on the team, but as you can see, he's making $6.5 million, expected to make $8.5 million next season, and he just really wasn't good anymore. He had that one season of 4 wins where he was really good in 2032, and then basically immediately was just like, yeah, I'm kind of just a utility guy, and we just don't need that for this amount of money, so we just traded him to the Los Angeles Angels, and we got a couple players who could be useful for us. One, Robbie DeBoom, definitely the lesser of the two, just a random depth starter option for us. He's in AAA down with Rochester. And then we also have Chris Berry, who is on the big league staff. He is a guy who, his ratings, at least his overall, you look at this, you're like, why would you trade for this guy? I just think this guy is good. Big time control, big time movement. He's got 60. Anything above 50 is really good. Once you get that 55, it's a big time jump, and then 55 to 60 is even bigger jump. Plus, he's got the 55 movement. He's a high leader work ethic, big time stamina, can give you multi innings out of the bullpen, and he's a lefty. Like I said, we need lefty bullpen guys. And he could possibly he might even tick up as a starter, want to be one of those guys. He is indeed. He's like we have a few guys like this, like Shane Rodemaker types, where you move into the bullpen, they're a 40, and the rotation, they're a 45. So I just thought he'd be interesting to add to the staff here, and he's going to be pitching some decently high leverage stuff for us this season as we pick him up from the Angels out of Marshall. Never really gotten a shot. I mean, he literally hasn't. He literally has never pitched in the big leagues for us. He's been in AAA for a long, long time, and we are finally giving him a shot here at the big league level with the Nationals. And then as predicted, we didn't really do much with free agency, but we did sign one pitcher. Ben Kasparius is a part of our starting rotation here. He came off a 4-win season last year, just weirdly enough, 81 FIP minus. It's a 3.24 FIP with the Texas Rangers. He's been with them since 2030. And he's been pretty solid overall for them. You look at these percentile rankings, I was like, he's an extreme fly ball guy with only 40 home runs allowed, but he's got 60 control, decent enough stuff. He throws a really hard fastball, throws 100 still. He's 36 years old, and he only wanted it was like 2.6 when I was offering him. Then I got in a bidding war with a little bit of a couple different teams, and then he ended up working his way up to 3.5, which is still, nothing for a guy coming off a 4-win season. And you look at his percentile rankings, there's a lot of teal here in 2033. 2032, it was really good as well. 2031, I mean, so the guy's had some really good percentile rankings. He's got 35 stamina. He is in our rotation here. To start 2035, we're going to see how things go. He's on a 1-year deal. We're excited to see what he can do with us. Ben Kasparius. And then you can see here, we ended up taking 2 people in the Rule 5 draft. One of them, Dusty Sutton, we pretty much immediately gave back because I just didn't think he was going to make the roster. But then this Ibert Sanchez guy, we ended up having to give back during a roster crunch. But the idea with him was that he could be Dylan O'Ray for us. Once Dylan O'Ray leaves after this season, he's got a very similar profile to Dylan O'Ray. And the Diamondbacks just continue to not give him a chance here. He has options. So I'm to the point where, if I see him on waivers or something, I might claim him and try to, put him in AAA for us or trade for him at some point, because you look at his profile, it's very, very similar to Dylan O'Ray, and we know how successful he's been for us, and he's even better defensively in the infield than Dylan O'Ray. So he was just interesting to me, but unfortunately we were not able to keep him on the roster with our roster crunch. But very much still keeping an eye on Ibert Sanchez here. And then before we go over what our big league roster is looking like here, we already talked about Jake Marsala's injury. We have Josh Merlini, who was out for the whole season. And then Evan Hollick, unfortunately, got a sore shoulder in spring training. He's going to miss multiple weeks. He will not be back for quite a bit. He's got 5 weeks left on that, so he'll be back probably mid-May, something like that, probably with the rehab assignment, if I had to guess. Unfortunately, just got hurt this year. He's starting to pile up the injuries, so that's definitely not good for us. But then taking a look at our pitching staff, which we are only rocking 7 relievers, that is part of the roster crunch because we have a few hitters that we wanted to keep on the team that have no options. So the rotation, still running the 6-man, Skubal, Hardcastle, Harris, Kasparius, Kleeman, and Rouse. And then in the bullpen, Matamoros as the closer. You got Sime and Herrera as the stoppers. And then you've got Mateo Reyes as the use more often, middle relief / setup. I'm tempted to go setup, 6th or later, high leverage with him. But I think because we only have 7 guys, I would rather have him as just a use more often middle with setup secondary. So he just has more options to be used and help other guys get through games, because we only have 7 relievers to work through. And then the rest of the guys, you have Chris Berry, Eric Agro, and Kevin Yoder on the team. Chris Berry, we should almost make a long reliever here. Or no, that's the other thing, is I want to make him a setup because he has that relief. He has that multi-inning thing with the 50 stamina. So 7 is going to be tough, but I'm hoping that at some point there's an injury to a position player, and we can immediately just have another reliever into the mix here while that position player is on the IL. Not that I'm wishing for injury, but that's probably going to happen at some point, and that is going to be the course of action we take. While on the position player side of things, it's usual things. Ford, Harris, Feliz, Wood, Corsia, Ebel, Hernandez, Sirota, and O'Ray is the lineup. It's very OBP and contacts, best hitter on the team overall-wise. Feliz, Wood is the power hitter, and then it's power, contact, contact, and OBP. So that's really the way we're constructing things, plus we're doing a bit of a split with the lefties and righties as well. While the bench players, Melvin Jimenez is our bench catcher, Gabby Berry is our bench infielder after putting up 3 really, really elite seasons in the minor leagues for us, now 26 years old, finally getting his chance here in the bigs as a bench infielder. And then in the outfield, we have Wilkin Tamariz and Josh DiCastillo, as well as Miguel Fonseca on this roster because he has no options, and I did not want to lose him because potentially when we lose Wood And Harris next season, because we're planning on trading him in the offseason and just kind of doing a full reset of the roster, that's going to open up 2 spots. So it could very well be like Fonseca's the DH, right field is Tamariz, and we don't want to lose Fonseca because he is seriously a good power hitter, and we want him on the team for next season. So right now he is just a bench first baseman. He is playing a little bit more against lefties here every second game, and he is the main pinch hitter just overall. So that is the plan with him. You'll also notice here that Castillo is the first pinch runner, even though Tamariz is the better runner, base runner. That is simply because Tamariz, we want him to be priority pinch hitter over pinch runner, to where we don't want him to be the best pinch runner, to where he's going to pinch run and never get into a pinch hitter in these games. We want Castillo to be the main one being a pinch runner for us. And then taking a look at our programs here this offseason, the first set of them, just going through all the successful ones. Wilkin Tamariz did improve his eye quite a little bit by 5. I don't even think it really shows. I think it's up to 50 now, so I guess it does show a bit, but gets a decent improvement to his eye. Outstanding improvement to Josh DiCastillo's Avoid K. The potential only goes up by 5, but it says the current goes up by 10. I don't really know if that shows on this page or not, but it says that he had a big improvement. And then we also had an outstanding improvement for Wei Lee with his power. Potential and current both went up by 5. And he is somebody who is looking like he could be our starting second baseman next season when Dylan O'Reilly leaves, because he is 19 years old, about to be 20, number 12 prospect in baseball. I shouldn't say tear up. He was okay in A-ball last year, but he is already in Double-A right now at 19, ready to be in the big league roster, really. In spring training, he was on the big league spring training team, and his expectation was starting lineup. So he may force his way onto this roster when it comes into postseason time, but for now, he's in Double-A. We're going to let him rake, keep developing, and then next season, he'll be like infield Luke Corsia on this team. And then we also had a successful improvement for Jay Nelson's control, less than 5. Whatever. He's going to start the year in Double-A for us. He will be on the team at some point this year, if I had to imagine. And then we had another one for Ramon Huron. Unfortunately, he is a guy that has no options, and he's 25, and I just kind of figured that he's probably not going to develop at this point, so he is on waivers right now. I've seen a lot of these guys pass through waivers, so he's probably not going to get claimed and just end up in Triple-A for us, but even if he does get claimed, it's whatever. And then we have another successful one with Zhu Zhao. Barely improved his control. He's going to start the year in High A just because I didn't think he was quite ready for Double-A. He could be, but we're probably going to start him in High A. He'll probably pitch maybe like a month or 2 there, and then we'll move him up to Double-A to start the season. Well, then we also had a successful improvement for Ricardo Morin. His movement went up by 5. He's going to start the year in Double-A for us as I don't know if he's a closer, but whatever he's going to be listed as in the minors, he's going to be in Double-A to start for us in Harrisburg. And then looking at the defensive set of improvements, we had Dave Flores, who improved his framing by 5, his ability, and his arm by less than 5. He's in Double-A for us to start this season. His framing, his catching defense is not the greatest, but his bat is so intriguing to the point where once we lose Harry Ford after this season, him and Melvin Jimenez are a very, very intriguing catching tandem for us. Number 7 prospect in baseball. That is the plan for him to be on the big league roster. He is currently on the 40-man. You can see here on the 40-man roster, on the secondary roster. So he will be probably maybe call him up in towards the end of the season. If someone gets hurt, he is probably the 3rd catcher option. Caraballo is still on the team, but he is a 40-man, on the 40-man, I should say, but carrying 4 catchers. But if we need to make room on the 40-man, Caraballo is probably the first one to be considered to be DFA'd off that 40-man. And then we also had successful improvement for Marco Barrera, who is another guy who is on our 40-man roster. He kind of came out of nowhere. He was a scouting discovery for us, had a really, really good season in A-ball last year. Big-time power bat. Another potential first base bat for us next season. He is in Double-A for us at the moment. Successful defense for Miguel Fonseca. Still nothing very special defensively. I mean, he's still just a terrible first baseman, but, it was completely unplayable, and now it's a little bit better, I guess. And then we had successful for Gabby Berry learning first base. tried to learn a new position. I thought maybe he would learn like left field or something, maybe get a big boost to his outfield range. Instead, just learns first base, whatever, we'll take it. And then we also had a successful one for this Japanese guy we signed in the offseason, who's just in AAA for us, decent contact bat, okay infielder, I guess. Don't really know if he's going to be ever part of the plans, but he is on our team for depth options. And then he learned to play a bad center field. So, whatever for him. You also see Tamariz had a poor improvement or a poor result, but there was no noticeable changes, so nothing going for there, luckily. And then we take a look at the preseason predictions here for 2035. The Baltimore Orioles predicted to win the East Division, with the Blue Jays behind them, and then the Yankees, Red Sox, and Rays all below 500. The White Sox atop the Central, the Royals behind them, and then Tigers, Guardians, and Twins below 500. The Astros are predicted to win the West, with the Angels and Athletics both around 500, and then the Mariners and Rangers as cellar dwellers. Well, over on the National League side of things, we are projected to win the East, with the Mets right behind us with 96 wins, the Braves behind them with 83, and then the Phillies and Marlins both in the cellar. While in the Central Division, you get the Pirates, Reds, and then Cardinals, Cubs, and Brewers behind them. While over in the West, the Colorado Rockies are projected to win the division, with the Dodgers, Padres, and Giants all being quite competitive, just kind of beating up on each other out there. And then the D-backs at the bottom of the division. We once again have no respect for our hitters, no Jerry Harris on here, no James Wood on here, no Luke Corshaw on here, nothing. And then on the pitching side of things, same deal. No respect for any of our players, as always, but they still think we're going to win 98 games, as we've won back-to-back World Series, and the plan for this year is to win a third.